Alright, today we are reviewing for the test. Test is tomorrow, so we're just gonna go through the review, make sure y'all are prepared. We did factoring this whole unit. Alright, we did a couple different factoring types where A is 1, that's the easiest type, where A is greater than 1, greatest common factor, and then we also solved it after factoring. So we'll go through a few of each. Alright, make sure you're ready for tomorrow. So number one, p squared minus 6p plus 8. We know step one is to label A, B, and C. All right, and then what is B? B is negative 6. A times C. When A is 1, it's easy because A is 1, so 1 times C is C, so 1 times 8 is 8. All right. Then we find multiples of 8. We need to find multiples of 8 that add up to be negative 6. All right. 1 and 8, can that get us to negative 6? No. 2 and 4, can that get us to negative 6? Yes. Now again, like I said to my face-to-face students and I've said online, we have to use our brain and figure out positive 2, positive 4 multiplied does equal 8, but we notice B is negative 6. So how do we get it to add up to negative 6, but multiply to be positive 8? And the way we do that is make them both negative. Don't just make one of them negative, because if you do, negative 2 times positive 4 is negative 8. That's wrong. And negative 2 plus 4 is not negative 6. But if we make both of them negative, negative 2 times negative 4 is a positive 8. All right, and then negative 2 plus negative 4 is a negative 6. So we know we found our winning factors. The next step, it's a very, very important step. Please don't forget it. We take A, which here's 1, A of X, or this time it's P. I don't care what letter you use. Let's just use X so we don't get confused. A, which is 1, we make our two fractions with AX on top, so 1x, and our winning factors, negative 2 and negative 4 on bottom. Please don't forget this step. It's very important, especially when A is greater than 1, to see if you can simplify, okay? But here we know we can't simplify, and when I say simplify, I mean, can you go lower than what it is? X minus 2, you can't go lower than that. X is already 1. So X minus 2, and then X minus 4, and we're done. All right, it is really easy when A is 1. That's all we have to do. Label A, B, and C, find your B, find A times C. Whatever A times C is, find the multiples of that, and then use your brain to see what multiples can add up to be whatever B is. Okay? Moving on. X squared plus 2x minus 8. Again, A, B, C. B is a positive 2. A times C is a negative 8. Please don't forget this negative right here. We make our T-chart, find multiples of negative 8. All right. 1 and 8. Can that get us to 2? No. 2 and 4. Can that get us to 2? Yes. Now, again, we use our brain. It's almost the exact same problem. The only difference is 8 is negative and our B is positive 2. So if we know our A times C is negative, we know one of our factors will be negative. Not both, like number 1, because C was positive, but on number 2, only one of them will be negative. Okay? Now we have to use our brain. If B is a positive 2, that means we know the bigger number needs to stay positive. So we're going to make 2 negative. All right? Now look at it. Negative 2 times positive 4 is a negative 8. We're good. And then also, positive 4 plus a negative 2, or negative 2 plus 4, is a positive 2, which is B. All right, so we found our winning factors. AX on top, over negative 2, over 4. Can we simplify? Nope. X minus 2, and then X plus 4. And we're done. All right, those shouldn't be too bad. I'm gonna do number 4 for the last types of this, and then we'll move on. Number 4, A, B, and C. B is equals negative 13. A times C equals 42. All right, let's find multiples of 42 that add up to negative 13. Sorry about that, y'all. So again, we find multiples of 42 that will add up to 13. We'll worry about the negative in a sec. 1 and 42, no. 2, 21, no. 3, 14, no. You keep going till you finally get to 6 times 7 is 42. Can that get us to 13? Yes. How do we get it to negative 13? Well, again, use your brain. If we make them both negative, negative 6 plus negative 7 is negative 13, and negative 6 times negative 7 is a positive 42. So we got what we need. AX, which is 1. Again, don't assume it's always 1. It just happens to be 1 for our first part. Always make note of what A is. X over negative 6, X over negative 7. All right, can we simplify that more? Nope, X minus 6, X minus 7, and we're done. All right. Now we're going to move to the tougher part of the unit. Scroll down. All right. Looking at number 5, when A is greater than 1, we just got to do a little bit more math. Okay. So we have 5r squared minus 18r minus 35. So first thing we do is label A, B, and C. B is a negative 18. Don't forget the negative. A times C. This time you might have to use a calculator. 5 times 35 is 175. Don't forget it's a negative 175. All right. So we need to find multiples of 175 that add up to negative 18. All right, so we'll go this again. You're going to use your calculator. So I'm going to pause the video until I figure it out real quick so I don't waste your time. All right, after checking, I came up with 7 times 25 is 175. Can that get us to negative 18? Yes. And can it get us to negative 175? Yes. We just need to figure out which one is negative. We're only going to make one negative because A times C is negative as well. B is negative, so we know the bigger number needs to be negative, so all we have to do is make 25 negative. Boom, we just found our two winning factors, 7 and negative 25. Now, we do the important part, the fraction AX, which this time A is 5x over 7, and 5x over negative 25. Now we see if we can simplify. Can we simplify the first one? 5x over 7, no, they both need to have a number that they can be divided by. They don't. So 5x plus 7 stays over here. That's part of the answer. 5x minus 25, can that be simplified? Yes, they can both be divided by 5. So slash those out. That becomes x over negative 5. Can that be simplified anymore? Nope. So we know x minus 5 is part of the answer, and we are done. All right. So remember, when you're doing the problems where A is greater than 1, just make sure you multiply A times C. A is not 1 this time, and then figure it out. Okay? We'll do one more like this, and then we'll move on. Number 6, we have 7k plus 6k minus 16. So first, we label A, B, and C. Then we have B, which is 6, A times C, which is negative 7 times 16, which is 112. And again, we find our multiples of negative 112. I'll pause the video real quick so I can find it. And I found it to be 8 and 14. Those two numbers multiplied can get us to 112. And then we see B is a positive 6. A times C is a negative 112, so we know we're going to make one of them negative. We see B is positive, so the bigger number will stay positive, so we make the 8 negative. Negative 8 times 14 is negative 112, and negative 8 plus 14 is a positive 6. There's our winning factors. So we have 7x or k, again, it doesn't matter. Just don't forget this part, 7x, a of x, over our winning factors, which is negative 8 and 14. Then we look, can 7x minus 8 be simplified? Nope, so that's part of the answer, 7x minus 8 in parentheses. And then 7x over 14 can be simplified. They're both can be divided by 7. X over 2, can that be simplified anymore? Nope, x plus 2, and we're done. All right, remember, every step is crucial. Label A, B, and C. What is our B? What is our A times C? Find our factors of A times C. Figure out which ones can add up to B. Then we do our A of x, which is 7x here, not just 1x, over our two factors. And then we simplify. All right, let's move on. We are down here to greatest common factor, okay? And remember, there's a calculator way to quickly find which is the greatest common factor. So we will do menu 2, 5, greatest common factor. Let's look at number 10, okay? We'll do number 10. So greatest common denominator, we're going to do A, comma, B to see what that's going to get us. 30, remember we're looking at number 10, 30, comma, 65, hit enter. It is 5 is the greatest common factor between those two. So we know that's the greatest common factor between all three because we know 315 can be divided by 5 as well. Make sure you check after you do A, comma, B, when you find the greatest common factor between A and B, make sure that common factor can go into C as well. It's just the calculator, the way it works, you can't type in all three. So we type in the first two, whatever that greatest common factor is, just make sure it goes into C. So I'll make sure 315 divided by 5, we get an even number, so we're good. All right, and I'm going to need that number anyway. So we're going to factor out the 5, and then we're going to do all 3 divided by 5. 30 divided by 5 is obviously 6k squared, plus 65 divided by 5 is 13k, and that's minus 315 divided by 5. I already checked it, so make sure it was a common denominator, a common divisor. 315 divided by 5 is 63. All right. Now, what I noticed on a lot of people's worksheets, virtual and face-to-face, y'all stopped right here. Y'all thought that was the answer and that's it. Now, there are a couple questions where all it says is factor out the greatest common factor only. But there's also a few where you have to finish factoring it. So we factored out the greatest common factor, but then we have to factor what is left over. All right, don't forget that. Okay, so it's all the same stuff we have been doing. A is greater than 1, so we know our B is equal to positive 13. Our A times C, which is 6 times negative 63, A times C is negative 378. And again, I'm going to pause the video to find factors of 378 that add up to 13. All right, I'm back, and I found it to be 14 and 27. 14 times 27 is 378. All right, and we also, all right, so we have 14 and 27. We see that B is a positive 13. So which one are we going to make negative? We're going to make the smaller number negative. That way we have our winning factors. Negative 14 times 27 is negative 378. And then negative 14 plus 27 is a positive 13, which is exactly what B is. So we have our winning factors. We take A of x, which is 6. Please don't look at the 30. 6x, or k, again, doesn't matter. 6x over negative 14 and 27. Now here, we have to look. Can we simplify? We can simplify both of them. We're just going to divide by 2 different numbers. On the first one, we can divide this whole thing by 2. On the second one, we can divide it by 3. All right, so 6 divided by 2 is 3x. 3x divided by -7. And then over here, divided by 3, we get 2x over 9. Neither of those can be simplified anymore. So we have 3x minus 7 along with 2x plus 9. And then the last thing we do is bring the greatest common factor down, and we are done. All right. Remember, label A, B, and C are B. After you factor out the greatest common factor, label A, B, and C. B is 13, A times C is -378. You go till you find your factors, okay? On the test, the numbers won't be this big, don't worry. Then we find 14 and 27. We make the 14 negative 6x over 14, 6x over 27. They both can be simplified just by two different numbers. The first one divided by 2, the second one divided by 3. You get 3x minus 7, 2x plus 9, and then you move the greatest common factor down. All right? And we're on to the last part. Solve each quadratic equation. All right, and I'm going to scroll down to we'll do number 15, because I'm going to show you the hand way, and then we'll do the calculator way with a different one. So number 15, remember step 1, we're going to factor it out, and then we just solve. So 90% of what we're going to do to solve is what we've been doing. Factor it out. We just learned this the other day. So ABC, B is 5. A times C is 6, so we find factors of 6. They can add up to 5. 6 and 1. See, some of us would have stopped right there and said, oh, that can get us a 5, but as we see, there's no minuses, there's no negatives, so that won't work because 6 plus 1 is 7. We keep going. 2 and 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Oh, that equals 5 when added together. There's our winning factors this time. So we do x or v, again, doesn't matter, x over, 3 and 2. Can those be simplified anymore? Nope. X plus 3 and x plus 2. All right, usually we'd be done, but this time we're solving. All we have to do is set each of these to 0. X plus 3 equals 0. X plus 2 equals 0. All right, and then the way we solve for x is get it by itself. -3 minus 3x equals -3, and then -2 minus 2x equals -2. So our final answer is -3, comma, -2, and then our weird little brackets, and that's it. All right, that is the way to do it by hand. Like I said, I suggest on the test, especially if you don't have a calculator, those at home or face-to-face if you're listening, I suggest doing it by hand and then checking it in the calculator, okay? It's not that hard to do it by hand, and I'll show you how to do it by calculator. Again, this is through the Nspire, so we're going to scroll down. I'm just going to pick a random one. Let's do number 19. All right. We're going to do number 19. Actually, now that I think about it, let's do number 17, and then I'll talk to you about number 19, and then we'll be done. I know the video is kind of long, but it's important because it's a test review. So number 17, we have 5r plus 23r minus 10. When we do it in the calculator, still label A, B, and C. That's important. So in the calculator, we go to scratch pad calculate, not graph, because we're not graphing. Menu, 3, enter, enter. Make sure the degrees are 2. Then pops up 3 boxes. There's A2, A1, A0. We know the first one should be A. Second one is our B number. Third one is C. So A is 5. Then our second box is a positive 23. Then our last box is a negative 10. We make sure that's in there correct. We hit OK. Then the parentheses pops up with poly roots. We hit enter. And there's our answer, -5, comma, 2 over 5. All right, in the calculator, it's really easy. If you get fractions, don't freak out. Look at the answer choices. If the answer choices have fractions, then you know that's right. If they don't, that's when you know you did something wrong. All right, menu 3, 3, enter, enter. Put A in correctly, put B in correctly, and put C in correctly, and then hit enter, and you have your answer. All right, I wanted to do number 17, then touch on 19 real quick, because actually, if you look at 19, it has a greatest common factor. All right, and if you watch football, you know your multiples of 7, like me, so I know 7, 35, and 42 are all multiples of 7. So we can factor out 7, and then what is left over? X squared minus 5x minus 6. That is our new trinomial, and we can put that into the calculator and get our answer. So menu 3, 3, enter, enter. We're going to put in 1, -5, and -6. And then we're going to hit enter, and we get -1, comma 6. All right. Now, one thing that you don't have to panic about, yes, I factored out the greatest common factor, but honestly, if you just left it in there, if you left 19 as is and typed it in correctly, 7 in the first box, -35 in the second box, -42 in the third box, you would get the same exact answer of 1, -1, comma 6. I just want you to get in the habit of factoring out the greatest common factor. You can type 19 in exactly as is, or you can factor out the greatest common factor first and then type in what's left, which would have been A is 1, B is -5, C is -6. You get the same answer both times. Okay? Hopefully we're ready for the test. Rewatch the video if you need to, and then come prepared. All right? It shouldn't be too bad. Just make sure you take your time and do all the steps. All right?